Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm your host, Jeff McAleer, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. I also happen to be the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. This is live stream 736. If this is your first time joining me, let me point out this is super casual. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then taking a look at a game. Tonight, we are continuing the old school for the New Year's celebration with a look at Dungeons & Dragons Original Adventures Reincarnated Volume 3 Expedition to the Barrier Peaks from Goodman Games. So stay tuned. We are going to be taking a look at that in just a bit. Keep in mind, we are not performing rocket surgery here by any stretch of the imagination. Just hanging out, having some fun. So if you have never caught the stream before and you're just tuning in because you want to see the Original Adventures Reincarnated volume we're taking a look at tonight, please keep in mind, we do tabletop gaming news first, then we dive into the look at the game. So about 30 minutes or so. If you are watching this after the stream ends, at least 30 minutes or more after it's ended, you'll actually find timestamps. So if you don't want to sit through the tabletop gaming news, you'll be able to jump ahead if you would like. So, of course, do want to point out, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. If you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here at YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, which I've got a lot of stuff cooking. I will talk about that in a bit, but you'll find out all about the Gaia Complex, the new cyberpunk role-playing game that I'll be sharing a first look video of this weekend. So stay tuned for that. And all these other goodies I'll be talking about a little bit later on. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And lastly, this is the live stream, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. So let's see who was first out the gate, flaming here on our chat moderator. He was first out saying hello. We got Russell Higgins joking about, is it Jeff with one F or Geoff? Jeff spelled Geoff. It's me, Hunter, has joined us as well. Helga Ratbone is with us. 245 Trioxin is chiming in as well. So, chat is off and running. Let's jump right on into the news, because arriving this month from Burnt Island Games is Into Deep. And here's the skinny. In Into Deep, it's a unique narrative that thrusts you into the future in a tense strategic board game for 1 to 5 players. Draft characters and spend actions to complete objectives and collect sets. What side of the law will you end up on? In the year 2087, central governments have fallen. What remains are fragmented city states like New Dawn City, must be located right next to New Jack City, struggling to keep chaos at bay. The sinister syndicate targets these weakened cities for domination by usurping, organizing, and enhancing the existing criminal elements. In the world of In Too Deep, you are part of a secret agency dedicated to stopping the syndicate at all costs. Cybernetic implants give syndicate operatives a technological advantage, but you've found a way to exploit that power. By infiltrating their cerebral upgrades, you can gain control of these criminals, going deep undercover into their minds. You'll coordinate crimes of escalating seriousness to get your hands on the critical evidence needed to foil the syndicate's looming plot. Each turn, you can hook into a new criminal and manipulate their activities throughout the city, accessing powerful skills and increased stamina as you grow familiar with their minds. Your physical body is in a secret lab far from the actual action, but you are by no means safe. Entering the mind of criminals takes its toll on your morality. Orchestrate crimes, strive to put the information you gathered to the best use, wrestle with dangerously corrupting dilemmas, and try to hold yourself together. It'll take everything you've got to avoid going in too deep. When I say that, I just channel my inner Michael Scott from The Office. I'll just leave it there. I won't say it. You know where I'm going. In Too Deep is for 1 to 5 players, ages 13 and up, plays in around 60 to 90 minutes, and it will carry an MSRP of $55 when it arrives January 19th. Gotta say, it's got a pretty unique premise, that's for sure. Art style looks kind of cool. Could be kind of interesting game. I gotta say, I don't think I've played any game that's from Burnt Island Games. And I know they've got a few out there. But yeah, it looks like it's got a pretty interesting looking table presence as well. Well, it's Wednesday. We're not doing any Wargame Wednesdays this month, but that doesn't mean I can't share some wargaming news, because there is a very unique looking game up on the GMT Games P500 pre-order list. Here's the scoop on Infernal Machine, Dawn of Submarine Warfare. Infernal Machine, Dawn of Submarine Warfare is a solitaire board game that casts the player in the role of inventor/entrepreneur in mid-19th century America. The game is set during a historical moment when the business environment had gotten rather dynamic. It is the tumultuous landscape of the American Civil War. The player's task is to design, build, and put to use a submarine during that war. Infernal Machine can be played either in scenario form or a campaign. In a campaign, you can choose the city or port where the project's machine shop will be located. Since construction materials and labor costs money, your role as entrepreneur comes into play as you seek out investors to join your team. Their cash will provide the funds that help your fish boat take shape. As inventor, your design gives form and substance to the size and shape of your submarine and to its capabilities. Will it carry a snorkel? Will its prow be an armored ram? Will it have dive planes? Will it push a spar torpedo? Will it be powered by the muscle strength of a crew cranking the propeller? Or will you install a boiler engine? In this game, you assign crew taking their characteristics into consideration, such as morale, strength, and engineering expertise. Your first mission will most likely be a simple affair, propelling the infernal machine forward, submerging, turning about, and returning to the surface. It will garner valuable experience that improves your crew's training level, but even that simple affair could prove treacherous. Will the fishboat drift? Will it sink and become irretrievable? Will your crew panic in the dark as they breathe in the exhalation of their comrades in that cramped machine? Will you be forced to evacuate the crew and salvage the fish boat later? Will the crew even survive the ordeal? Later missions will be directed at the enemy. In this game, you may play either side, Union or Confederate. There are a variety of missions and targets. Will your fish boat be aimed at the Federal blockade? Will it pull a mine at the end of a rope or push a torpedo at the end of a spar? Will the crew survive contact with the enemy? Will they survive their own weapons detonation? Perhaps the nature of the mission will be quite different. Will you carry a spy into enemy territory? Will your fish boat unload a raiding party? Historical scenarios use only part of the rules to present such events as the CSS Hunley's successful attack outside Charleston Harbor in 1864. Well, I guess we could say the attack was successful. The crew might not consider it being that successful, if you know the history of the CSS Hunley. It was the first time a submarine sank its target, a landmark event in military history. The heart of the game is the campaign, which allows you to design and build your infernal machine, select a crew, train that crew, and perform missions against the enemy. You manage funds and personnel and navigate the fortunes of war, as well as the waterways in enemy territory. A scenario will take approximately 2 hours to play, while a campaign can last several gaming sessions, as it spans the calendar from 1861 to the end of the war in 1865. Infernal Machine Dawn of Submarine Warfare is for one player, ages 14 and up, can be pre-ordered right now for $55, and it's going to carry an eventual MSRP of $85. Got to say, this sounds very, very interesting. Solitaire game, designing a submarine back in later mid 19th century. Yep, I would say this sounds pretty wild. Pretty wild. Gonna look forward to seeing how this does on the P500, because it is a pretty new entry to the P500. Let's talk some role-playing game news as Doug Roberts has joined us in chat. Good to see you again, Doug. February is full of Pathfinder and Starfinder adventure from our friends over at Paizo Inc. So I'm going to talk about the adventures that are on the slate. I'm not going to talk about the flip mats and things like that this time out, because we got a lot to get through already. So Omanal is with us as well, also sharing a little bit of the history of the CSS Hunley. Sang 3 times. Yep. Roll for Combat is in chat with us as well. Welcome, everybody. All right. Anyway, as I was saying, February's got loads of Pathfinder and Starfinder adventure. So let's dive on in, talk about what's on the slate. Because first off, we've got Pathfinder Adventure Path 174, Shadows of the Ancients, Strength of Thousands, Part 6 of 6. Save the Magambia. The heroes return to the Magambia Magic Academy to find the villain they'd vanquished on a distant planet had set another scheme in motion long ago. Students and teachers have been twisted by evil magic, and the heroes must engage in legendary tests to gain the means to free them. While a monstrous foe thrashes through the Magambia, it's up to the heroes to save the school from utter destruction. Shadows of the Ancients is a Pathfinder adventure for 4 18th level characters by Saif Ansari. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. This adventure concludes the Strength of Thousands adventure path, a 6-part monthly campaign in which the heroes rise from humble students to influential teachers and ultimately decide the fate of the Magambia. This adventure provides guidance to tell stories that are like fables or set in truly unusual adventure locations, and concludes with a look at powerful monsters, magics, and abilities that only the mightiest Magambian heroes can claim. This will be available in softcover for $24.99. Although Paizo hasn't revealed the PDF price, I got to feel that it's $17.99 like usual. Then we've got Pathfinder Adventure Path 176. Yes, like, what happened to 175, Jeff? Well, at the end of this news piece, I'll tell you. Anyway, this adventure path is Lost Mammoth Valley. It's chapter 2 of 3 of the quest for the frozen flame. With danger close behind, the broken tusks journey through the bountiful but treacherous Lost Mammoth Valley in search of the primordial flame. The Tusk Scouts solve the riddles of the primordial valley. I think you guys are using primordial a little too much. And recruit a motley league of unlikely followers, all while evading the watchful gaze of the Vale's villainous overlords. In order to fulfill their quest, the scouts must ultimately go toe-to-toe with these vile masters. A vicious white dragon, a sadistic necromancer, and a boorish beast god. I wonder if he's kind of like a boar. Bet you he is. Lost Mammoth Valley is a Pathfinder adventure for 4 4th-level characters by Jessica Catalin. This adventure continues the quest for the Frozen Flame Adventure Path, a 3-part monthly campaign in which the heroes lead a band of nomadic hunter-gatherers across a brutal primordial, again, landscape. This adventure also includes an examination of megafauna, including advice and rules for creating your own new giant. I was going to throw in primordial just as a laugh, but it's not really there. Your own new giant animals, a glossary of Mammoth Lord's depictions of Galarian's most popular deities, and new prehistoric creatures to befriend or bedevil your players. This will also carry an MSRP of $24.99 for the softcover, and I will assume the PDF will be $17.99. Next, we've got Starfinder Adventure Path number 43, Icebound. It is Horizons of the Vast, Chapter 4 of 6. A distress beacon from a desolate section of tundra sends the heroes on a rescue mission in the biting cold. They find a lone Vesk survivor in the wreckage of a starship, prowled by a menacing insectile stowaway. Spoilers! Jeez. A component of the dreaded swarm. The heroes trace the creature's origin to a frozen gas giant in the same system, where a mutated swarm colony has begun to awaken from a strange hibernation. Will the heroes brave the floating organic layer to stop the swarm from contacting the greater hive mind? Icebound is a Starfinder role-playing game adventure for 4 7th-level characters by Jason Tondro. This adventure continues the Horizons of the Vast adventure path, a 6-part bi-monthly campaign in which the heroes are at the forefront of exploring and charting a newly discovered world filled with mystery. This volume also includes a dossier on the Veskarium spy agency known as Directive 9. Technology repurposed from the swarm and a selection of deadly alien threats. This soft cover will carry an MSRP of $22.99, and you can get the PDF for $15.99. Then we've actually got the next chapter. We've got Adventure Path number 44, Allies Against the Eye, Chapter 5 of 6 of the Horizons of the Vast. Heralds of an organization called the Order of the Culling Shadow announce their presence, proclaiming the eventual destruction of every thinking being in the system. The PCs must spread the terrible news to New Harmony's other charters, as well as reach out to the Pact Worlds and the Veskarium for assistance. Can the heroes navigate political complications and face strange dangers to gain the cooperation of possible allies? Or will they go alone into what could possibly be an all-out war? Allies Against the Eye is a Starfinder role-playing game adventure for 4 9th-level characters by Jabari Weathers. This adventure continues the Horizons of the Vast adventure path, a 6-part bi-monthly campaign in which the heroes are at the forefront of exploring and charting a frontier world filled with mystery. This volume also includes an examination against the dangerous The Order of the Culling Shadow, paths to mystical enlightenment, and a selection of unusual alien threats. This softcover is going to carry an MSRP of $22.99, You'll be able to grab the PDF for $15.99. And then finally, we have Pathfinder Bounty number 18 from Family Lost. This is designed for level 3 characters. When the 5th Mendevian Crusade ended, the hamlet of Bolvis was one of many casualties on the Mendevian side of the border. Overrun by demons and their allies, the hamlet hasn't been touched since a band of crusaders cleared out the demonic influence that lingered. Now, contracted by an interested party, a group of adventurers must head into the ruins of Bolvis to find a missing deed and any other surviving treasures. Have the demons truly been removed, or are there other darker secrets waiting in the ruins? You'll find out, as this PDF is $2, or should be, will be $2.99. All of these releases are slated for a mid-February release. So you might be thinking, hey, wait a second, Jeff. So next month will be the conclusion of the Strength of Thousands adventure path. And the second part of the, oh gosh, I don't even recall exactly what the adventure path is. It's the, it's where they're basically nomadic tribe. So, the Broken Tusks. It's a quest for the Frozen Flame. That's it, which takes place in a primordial setting. I think, for some reason, I think that's what it is. So there's some shipping issues. That's basically what's going on. And yes, they have risen up and bitten Paizo relatively hard. So that's one of the reasons why I got to be honest, I think Strength of Thousands has been delayed. The finale to it, chapter 6, has been delayed like 2 months. So things are a little out of kilter for Paizo at the moment. So I will share because I've had it sitting in the can for quite a while. I just was waiting to see like when we were going to see the next chapter of the adventure path for Horizons of the Vast. I will share my review of chapter 3. I think I'll do it early next week because I got a lot of stuff popping up on the channel throughout the end of the week, into the weekend, and I'll talk about that when I'm done with the news. Time is running out on an excellent bundle of holding. It features Kevin Crawford's Stars Without Number from Sine Nomine Publishing. Yeah, it is publishing. Here's the deets on the deal. Adventure. We've resurrected our March 2019 Stars Without Number revised bundle featuring the 2017 Stars Without Number revised tabletop science fiction role-playing game from Sine Nomine Publishing. SWN sets the standard for sandbox role-playing. Forget pre-packaged, pre-digested plot lines that put the players on railroad tracks. In a sandbox game, the setting is wide open for adventure in all directions. The Game Master presents situations, not storylines, problems, not plots. The player characters go where they will, do as they wish, forging their own career. And the best game for sandbox-style spacefaring is Stars Without Number. For just $7.95, you get all 3 titles in the Revived Offers Starter Collection with a retail value of $32. Available as complete DRM-free PDFs, including the deluxe Stars Without Number revised rulebook, which has all the artwork and stuff, which normally is $20. 16 Stars, which is popular science fiction scene backdrop, or backdrops, plural, and the Stars Without Number revised Game Master screen. If you pay more than the threshold price of $21.39, you'll level up and also get this Revival's entire bonus collection with 5 more titles worth an additional $48, including the supplement Dead Names, Lost Races, and Forgotten Ruins, and 4 system-neutral campaign sourcebooks. Starvation Cheap, Ground Warfare and Mercenary Campaigns. Skyward Steel, the Stellar Navy. Sons of Gold, Merchants and Traders, and Polychrome, which is cyberpunk. These savings run through January 12th. 10% of each payment after gateway fees for this offer will be donated to the charity designated by designer Kevin Crawford, the Benzie Food Partners, which actually service his hometown in Michigan. We were just talking about Stars Without Number yesterday because chat got into a bit of discussion about free role-playing games. And this is Stars Without Number without the artwork, art-free. And I think it's missing a few small things. It's absolutely free. But now you've got this special offer, which has been going on for a little bit. It flew under my radar, I'll be the first to admit. But you have the this bundle of holding where you can get a ton of stuff for, well, you can get the core for $7.95. And then if you pay $21.39, you'll get a bunch of other goodies as well. I am curious about Worlds Without Number. I have not taken a peek at it. I have considered trying to see about picking it up because I do believe, I'm not positive, but I do believe that Sine Nomine Publishing is another company that doesn't really care about reviewers or what they say or whatever. I think, I'm not positive, but I think I reached out to them previously. And I hear that Worlds Without Number is really good. So I might, I don't know. Might look into picking it up, sharing it with you. So my final news piece, Onyx Path Publishing has released a quick start for their They Came From Beneath the Sea role-playing game in print and PDF. Here's what I know about Beach Party Creature Feature. It's a beautiful, sunny weekend on the beach. The kids are partying, the beer's cold, and someone's passing around what the locals call jazz cigarettes. Yeah, baby. Pass me that jazz cigarette. Let's be honest, life couldn't be much better in this 1950s slice of American utopia. That is, until monstrous Gilkin emerge from the waves and assault our idyllic town. And as shadowy science researchers conspire to stop the party. You are the defenders of small-town America, and you are the only people who can drive the tide of invasion back into the sea. They Came From Beneath the Sea is a campy, action-filled, horrifying tabletop role-playing game of 1950s science fiction, taking the best and worst bits from B-movies of the era and presenting them as thoroughly entertaining stories. This jumpstart provides you with all the tools you need to start a story of They Came From Beneath the Sea and tell many stories to follow. They Came From Beneath the Sea uses the story path system provided in the pages of this book. Party Beach Creature Feature includes 6 playable characters, including an everyman, a survivor, a G-man, a mouth, and a scientist. A story split across 3 acts, perfect for a one-shot or convention play. Creatures from the deep and villains from the land to throw at your players. All the cinematic powers, quips, and story path system mechanics you need to run the game right from the page. This 48-page PDF is available at Drive-Thru RPG for $1.99. $1.99. And a car, any color, $99.99. You can also get this in soft cover, full color. Although, looking at the interiors, I don't know if you necessarily need full color. Although I think that's the only one available. I don't think they have black and white available or grayscale. But you can get a soft cover of the 48-page Party Beach Creature Feature starting at $8.99. Because I know they've got the premium and then the regular. just like fuel, right? Just like gasoline used to be. Russell Higgins says there'll be Steve McQueen. Yeah, but the blob didn't come from the sea. Sammy reviewed the core game for this and really liked it. Sammy is a fan of Onyx Path Publishing. So she has checked it out. And I've noticed there are some other releases in the lineup. So it's not just they came from beneath the sea and this quick start. There's some adventures, some expansions. I think there's like a monster book. I know there's another book. It's like they came from outer space, which kind of builds on that as well. Russell Higgins is, how do you know that, Jeff? J-E-F, or I should say G-E-F. No, that's not what anybody thought my spelling of my name was. J-E-F, or, although no one has ever spelled my name G-E-O-F-F. I will point out my name is Jeffrey, not Jeffrey. It's Jeffrey. So I have had people do the old Jefffery. I'm like, no, that's not it. It's R-E-Y. So yes, I think this sounds like it's pretty fun. And as Russell says, there'll be Steve McQueen. It kind of makes me think that it's one of those games where I don't know how many of you out there watching used to, spend Saturday afternoons watching, the old monster movies. They would usually be on one of your UHF channels. I know my brother and I did tons of that. And, you had the giant tarantula and all these other things. And it was funny because you always had the teenage kids who always saved the day. And then you always had the one guy who was the main character, but he was like the bad boy who really wasn't a bad boy. He was misunderstood. Then every town had their town drunk who would usually get killed by the monster. Not always, but usually. So Russell says they love B movies. Omanel says, stop adding extra E's to names. Joe Bob Briggs, B movies. Yeah, but Joe Bob Briggs, he focuses more on splatter films, doesn't he? I gotta be honest, I really never really watched Joe Bob Briggs. Wasn't he? Didn't he start off on, what was it, USA? Wasn't that where that show was? His horror show? But yes, Russell Higgins says you'll be surprised what mainstream actors show up in B movies. That is for certain. And that goes from back in the 40s all the way to the present day. So it's pretty interesting to see where some very famous actors got their starts. All right, that's it for the news tonight. So my last news piece, I was talking about Drive-Thru RPG. And of course, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG, maybe you want to take advantage of that $1.99 beach party creature feature, by all means, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you like the channel, if you like what I do, if you dig thegaminggang.com, you can always buy me a cup of coffee or some soda by going over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and make a small donation. So thankfully, we get quite a few people who do both or one or the other. And a big thank you to Will Barton. He was one of our most recent contributors over on PayPal. So 245 Trioxin said he started on the movie channel. Really? That's kind of weird. I always thought it was like USA or TNT or something like that. Yes, I do know he's on Shudder now. In fact, Shudder had that celebration of Elvira. And wasn't he a host of it? I like horror movies, but I'm not a big like splatter movie fan. So even growing up, I mean, like I think John Carpenter's The Thing is excellent. I like Prince of Darkness. I like a lot of Carter, John Carpenter stuff. Yes, I'm a big fan of John Carter of Mars's film career. But I was never into like gross out films. Just not my bag of tricks. It's like I liked Halloween. I thought Halloween was pretty cool. Scared the bejesus out of me, and I think I was all of I don't know 11 years old, something like that, 10. But I wasn't that I wasn't that little when I saw it. I saw it on VHS. I think I was like 13 or 14 at somebody's house and saw it. But yeah, I was never one of those. Oh, look, let's go rent all these crappy 70s like horror films. Nope, not me. So Roll for Combat says that Joe Bob started out with a weekly column and then moved to cable TV. Sweet. Omenal says the same thing. They remember reading his movie reviews before ever seeing him on TV. Flaming Huron says, yeah, they're more into just scary atmospheric movies than just blood and gore for the sake of it. Yeah, see, it's like I'll watch some stuff. I understand the boys from Amazon. I mean, they're trying to push the envelope. I get it. Do I necessarily think that it's got to be, as violent as it is, as gory? No. But there was the now I can't remember the title of it. It was the John Cusack was in it. Utopia? Was that it? Was that the title of it? Where it's these all these different people are trying to get their hands on this comic book, and it's like all this weird conspiracy stuff. It was actually pretty good, but it was another show where it was like they would just throw out some really graphic violence out of no place. And it was sort of like, do you really need to do that? Get off my lawn! Yeah, these people these days making all these movies and TV shows with all this blood and guts. I don't have an issue with it. It's just sometimes it's like, was there a need to do that? I mean, I can see if you want to really shock somebody, like you got like a major character getting killed or something. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd be like driving that point home and you're like, oh, man, holy. Just where it's like, oh, yeah, just, some peon extras. Let's just like decapitate them. No thanks. Kevin R. Smith has joined us. Kevin's one of our reviewers over at the gaminggang.com. Good to see you, Kevin. Omenal is as well. Forgot to mention that when Omenal popped in. So we've got some new reviews as well. We've got some reviews coming for Old School Essentials. But even though we've got them in the can, they are not going to be posted until the third week of January because that's when we are going to be looking at Old School Essentials as part of our Old School for the New Year celebration. Speaking of, don't forget, Saturday, I will have another Old School flashback as I share a page through of my copy of the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook. So we had a bit of fun on Saturday, taking a peek at the Monster Manual. And it was just, stream of consciousness, just kind of sharing things I remembered of, playing D&D way back in the day. And Kevin says they heard the boys' comic books are worse than the TV show. Nah, I've read them actually. I like them. I think they're really good. The whole storyline is really completely different. So, you could read the boys' comics, which are from Dynamite Entertainment, and it won't ruin anything, really, from the show. But yeah, there's some stuff that's I don't think they would port over to the TV show. Anyway, next week we are also going to be diving into Adventurer, I should say, Conqueror King from Autok LLC. I think that's how it's pronounced. So we're going to take a look at Axe all week. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're going to be looking at various different titles for the system. So that will be next week. And throughout the rest of this week, I will be sharing videos of the rest of the original Adventures Reincarnated from Goodman Games. So tomorrow will be number 4, Friday number 5, Saturday number 6. So you'll get a double dip of videos at least on Saturday on the channel. All right, let's jump on in. Flaming Heron says, that's a nice looking book. Actually, my player's handbook is in pretty good shape. Once again, I pointed this out in the Monster Manual video. These are not my original copies. I wish I had my original copies, because I'll tell you what, they'd be in damn good shape, because I always took care of my books. I still do. I'm not a person who like folds like the page to mark my page or anything like that. In fact, I don't even use like bookmarks. I just would normally remember what page I was on. But the ones I got through the secondary market, they're in pretty good shape. They're in pretty good shape. I would say, I think the one that's the nicest of the bunch is probably my Deities and Demigods, which of course is not one that has Cthulhu or Fritz Leiber's and Nirwan. Yeah, I'd like to have those. All right, without further ado, let's jump on in. Take a look at Dungeons & Dragons Original Adventures Reincarnated Volume 3, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. The original adventure was written by Gary Gygax. Conversion for this volume is by Michael Curtis, who does a lot of great adventures. Main focus is on Dungeon Crawl Classics. And Tim Wadzinski, who has been involved in all 3 of these volumes that we've taken a look at. The front cover art is from Errol Otis. Pretty obvious right there. And the 402-page hardcover is available for $49.99. There are no PDFs available of this book. We're going to swing on over to the other camera because here we've got Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. And I've mentioned this on the first 2 volumes. I'll mention this with the 3rd volume. I do believe the reason why there are no PDFs available, and there will not be PDFs for sale, is that was part of the agreement with Wizards of the Coast. And I believe it's because Wizards of the Coast still wants to sell the PDFs of the original modules over on DM's Guild. I mean, and that's, that's fair. So this is an original Origins 2 tournament scenario, which I seem to recall was also on the cover of the original adventure. Kevin Smith says they're the same way about books too. They only mark they intentionally leave in a book as their name if they're playing at a table with multiple copies. I've never written my name in a book, ever. Omanal says their player's handbook got waterlogged, and it's held up rock solid despite that. So you may notice I'm not wearing glasses tonight, because I was like, wow, that was just a little too difficult to try to read the back of the book last night. All right, I'm not going to read all of this, but from a mysterious cave high in the barrier peaks they come, savage raiders of unknown origin, laying waste to castle and keep, leaving no survivors. The land is in turmoil, and only a band of stalwart heroes dares to launch an expedition into the soaring mountains to stamp out this vile menace. What they discover in those lofty peaks is something beyond their comprehension, a danger spawned from the very stars above. A crashed starship buried for centuries beneath the, hey, spoilers! Beneath the barrier peaks has awoken, and now its alien inhabitants, crazed robots, eerie androids, and even stranger things endanger the world. The adventurers must confront these threats and navigate the unearthly interior of the wrecked starship, puzzling over and mastering alien technology to defeat their foes. If you've ever had the urge to zap an Umber Hulk with a laser rifle while commanding a robotic servant, this adventure is for you. Jump on in. I had this module. So, as we've discussed in the 2 previous videos, I did not own Into the Unknown, Keep on the Borderlands, or the Isle of Dread because I didn't play basic. I'll be the first to admit, I did not run a lot of Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. I still really don't run a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. It is still Call of Cthulhu, run Call of Cthulhu a ton, not as much as I once did, but I still run it. And my own kind of kit-bashed fantasy role-playing game that has an old school vibe to it. So we get this pretty cool kind of like splash page here. And obviously that's Errol Otis's art. Okay, first thing I noticed compared to, and please keep in mind, this is not a review. I have not opened this book up. This is the first time I've cracked this open. I've been holding on to this. So this is not a review. This is a page through. I'm not going to page through every page. I'm going to stay up here picture in picture. So I will be cutting off this upper left portion of the book. And something else to keep in mind, this is not a review copy that was sent to me by Goodman Games. All 6 volumes that are currently out of Original Adventures Reincarnated were provided to me by a viewer who wants to stay anonymous. But they like my take on role-playing games, and they wanted me to be able to share these. So a huge, huge thank you. So we've got our credits here, getting into our table of contents. Anyway, first thing I was going to say, I can tell you right now, the paper quality is different. You might be able to tell. See, it's not matte. It's got a sheen to it. So the paper quality has taken a bump up from the first 2 volumes. So we get introduction from Michael Curtis. Wizards and goblins and spaceships. Yes, please. I got to be honest, I do not know who Tony DiTerlizzi is. There you go, Errol Otis. The Frog Hemoth. Yeah, I remember the Frog Hemoth. Mixing peanut butter and chocolate. Hey, I mentioned this yesterday. How some people don't like mixing their science fiction and fantasy, their peanut butter and chocolate or chocolate and peanut butter. That's kind of funny. It's right here. So this was originally concocted as a tournament module for Origins. I always thought, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but years later, when I actually had an opportunity to take a peek at Metamorphosis Alpha, which was out at the same time as this. In fact, Metamorphosis Alpha is kind of like, I think it's the 3rd role-playing game that was published, first science fiction role-playing game. And I always felt that this was like an adventure for Metamorphosis Alpha that had been tweaked for D&D. And I'll show you why when we get into this. I still remember quite a lot about this module. So if you are not familiar with the Original Adventures Reincarnated, they present the original module as well as a converted version for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, which is also fleshed further out. So we were taking a look at the Isle of Dread last night, and there was a lot of extra content in that where you could pretty much have a whole campaign taking place on the island. Flaming Heron says, surprisingly, it's only the bigger books. As far as, oh yeah, spines breaking in that. Yeah, that happens a lot. Who was it? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't too long. Oh, you know what? I think it was the 2nd edition Pathfinder rules that the first print run came out, and some people were having huge issues with the spine breaking because there were so many pages in it. All right. So anybody who is, I mentioned this before, but anybody who has PDFs or the original AD&D modules can tell right off the bat that there's that font. There's that font we so fondly remember. And you'll notice the font is actually relatively small. Kevin says Paizo core books are always the ones that they watch out for with the spines. They had the same problem with Starfinder. See, luckily I didn't experience any issues, but then again, keeping in mind, I was not using them at the table either. So we get the various different levels. One of the things that I thought was very cool, and I think it was the first time that they had done this in Dungeons and Dragons Adventures, was there was a separate booklet with artwork, which was supposed to be from kind of the characters' points of view to share with them what they saw as they were exploring this spaceship. Because the thing is, the player characters aren't supposed to understand that it's a spaceship. They don't know what it is. And I also get a kick out of looking back on this. Some of the oddball kind of science fiction aspects that are very dated, obviously enough, of course. But I think that's pretty funny. So yeah, so we actually got like these flow charts of how some of these various different objects and some of the equipment would work, and how you could end up destroying it accidentally or setting it off, hitting somebody with it and stuff like that. Kevin says, I know they read the name of the font somewhere, but they don't remember it. It's the same one they used for all the original D&D stuff. This was the same font that they used for Basic and Expert too, I think. So we've got the blaster pistol. That's a blaster pistol. That's a blaster rifle. Now, obviously, looking at that, players today would be thinking, "What is that? Is that like a hand TV or something?" Better be careful. Don't be staring at it when you set it off. We've got needler pistols, needler rifle. So we get a bunch of info about the various different items in this. And to prevent this from getting really out of hand by really overpowering the player characters, most of the equipment. So Kevin says BX used a different font, a serif font called Souvenir. All right. Yeah, I think you had mentioned that before. Oh, and look, it's the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game family. So at this point in time, when this came out, this did not, we did not have deities and demigods yet. And of course, obviously enough, that would mean we didn't have Fiend Folio. Okay, so I said, I always kind of had an impression that this was a Metamorphosis Alpha adventure that had been tweaked for D&D, AD&D, because I've seen one of the Metamorphosis Alpha editions in PDF. I don't recall which one it is. I know it's not the latest. And the starship that the player characters awaken on is laid out just like this. It's a circular map. And it was the first things I noticed about Metamorphosis Alpha. And I thought, wow, that looks just like Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. I'm sure they're different, but I'm saying that the circular map kind of leads me to believe. And like I said, Metamorphosis Alpha was out at the same time. So Russell Higgins asks, did it have Gygax's initials? I'm not sure. Oh, okay. So Russell says they did Hidden Shrine of C1 with the extra picture book 2. That was also a tournament module. I got to point out, now okay, so first of all, I don't think I've ever read C1. But for the most part, most of the tournament modules that I had seen outside of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, I have never actually been a big fan. They're too much like Funhouse Adventures. I don't like running Funhouse Adventures. Funhouse Adventures tend to involve a lot of hurt feelings from your players. Go back one page, I'll see the Gygax initials on the map. I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be seeing his initials. Anywho, I'm not saying that this wasn't changed up dramatically. Obviously, it would have been from Metamorphosis Alpha to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I just have a feeling that that's how it started off. Like I said, I could be completely wrong. Okay, so it's on level 2. Oh yeah, right there. Yeah. E. Gary Gygax. It's upside down. It's kind of funny. So here we've got those images. And I got to say, for the most part, the artwork is actually really, really good. In my memory. And once again, we're going back a long time. I think that was the first thing that really struck me about this module was that so much of the artwork was like, wow, they've really upped their game. Not that we had like any competition really at that point in time. So, like I said, these are images that are coming from the player character's points of view. So, what the hell could that be? Obviously, nowadays, we would probably think, oh, yeah, that must be some sort of medical bed, some sort of medical bay. Obviously, this is the space brothel that they're in. I think she's an android, if I remember right. There's one image that I really like. I'll never forget this one. It's coming up. All right, come on. Really do dig the page quality in this. The paper quality is really, really nice. Although I gotta admit, the first 2 volumes, that was nice thick paper too. Oh, we get some color. I said I was gonna show every page, and I'm kind of showing every page. So this is the one I always remember. Give you a better look. Oh, look at the cute bunny. Hi, little bunny. It's like, ah! It's like not really a rabbit thing. It's just bait. Okay, so as you can see, there were a lot of images in this booklet that came with the adventure. So this is what I think is a little odd about these original Adventures Reincarnated books is if there were different editions, if there were different print runs, that there was some sort of change to the module, they reproduce it again. So once again, we're seeing the adventure. I think it's kind of silly. I get it. It's, completist. But still, to me, I find that a little odd. So here we've got the maps again. Got the images again. Flaming Heron says, never trust bunnies. They remember Vorpal bunnies. Okay. Now, at page 174, we are going to move into the 5e edition of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. This is the big selling point of this book. And as we've seen so far, more than half of these volumes are dedicated to the updated, converted adventure. So I've heard some people complain that the books are too expensive. $49.99. We're looking at clocks in what I think 402 pages. So you're essentially looking at probably 200 pages of adventure. Let's say 210. In hardcover, for most major role-playing game publishers, that book would probably be about $50. So I don't see the complaint about these being pricey. I think all in all, they actually are a pretty solid deal. That said, from looking through the first two volumes, and of course now we're going to kind of dive a little bit into this third volume with the converted adventure with the new artwork as well. We can see this is a new map. I think this would be difficult to use at the table simply because there's no PDF. And I don't mean to harp on it, but this is something that I'm going to mention in each video for each of these volumes, is that there's no way for you to take the maps out. And I know people are like, well, that was the same way with modules. Yeah, but the modules were 16 pages, 30 pages. This is 400 and some pages. It's kind of zipping on through here. This is a pretty wacky adventure. It's not super gonzo, but just the whole fantasy meets science fiction. And obviously, the players, especially today, the players would kind of have to kind of play in character. Like, I don't know what the hell that thing is. So Kevin says they're pretty sure at Origins they used this. It was in the mid-70s before Gamma World was a gleam in anybody's eye. You know what? I think the ad was just showing D&D stuff. Yeah, I don't think Gamma World was out yet. Kevin also mentions that price-wise, this isn't bad because most D&D books are the same MSRP for half the pages. Yeah, that's true. I got to be honest, I think if they just reproduced one copy of the module and then provided the converted adventure, I think that would be perfect. I think it's increasing the page count for these additional print runs for really no reason. Russell says you can web search for the maps, but thing is, with this converted edition, the maps aren't exactly the same. So I did notice that because I started reading into the Borderlands, and there are some changes to the map. So trying to download the map from, somewhere online, you're not going to get the actual map that's for the adventure. Because as you could see from the artwork, let's see if we can go back here. It was different. See, that is a different map than what we saw before. Now, I'm not saying that all the locations and things like that aren't identical. They very well could be, but there are going to be some changes. So we've got some expanded encounters for the spaceship. Just kind of jumping on through here. So we got additional encounters for the different levels as well. The colonization supply storage. What is this? The accursed chapel. Against the venomous warlord. The party may discover the VR pods in the spaceship's wreck area. I thought it said area. I was like, what is area? While exploring the dungeon, usually the pod plunges them into an artificial reality in which they become heroes in a world of futuristic swords and sorcery. So it's included in here as an adventure. That's pretty wild. Okay, so now we're into the new monsters, new creatures, new robots as well. Seemed like the section on the history of the adventure was a bit lighter than we saw in the two previous volumes. So it looks like we've got some pre-gens. I think these are pre-gens. Characters. Yep, you can use them to form a party for tournament or regular play. And the final 6 characters are VR avatars used for the Venomous Warlord adventure. Okay. And then we get the images again. I don't think really anything's changed. We might get more because we have the extended encounters. Yeah, no. No, I think those are just all the same. Okay, and I'm guessing this is when they announced it at Gen Con. So it's Michael Curtis and Tim Wazinski. Yep, they're at Gen Con. We got our maps again. So essentially what you're going to need to do is probably take photos of this. So Omanal says, wish they had put the maps as pullouts. Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I think as well. Would make life a hell of a lot easier for you. So Metamorphosis Alpha and Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. One of the lesser known facts related to the history of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks is that it was originally created as an adventure module for Metamorphosis Alpha. Bam, right there. Not Dungeons and Dragons. Ha ha. It was originally run as a Metamorphosis Alpha adventure at an early Origins convention before subsequent publication under the D&D banner. Several years ago, Goodman Games published a compilation of all the Metamorphosis Alpha material TSR produced. Yeah, I knew that. In fact, I think they are the publisher now of Metamorphosis Alpha. Says, in that volume, RPG historian John Peterson described the history of Metamorphosis Alpha, and that history overlaps considerably with the publication of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. And this is the article here. Nice. Very cool. Like I said, the circular map is what made me think, man, was that originally from Metamorphosis Alpha? All right, and then we get some ads for Goodman Games, including Dungeon Crawl Classics. Once again, the cover artwork from the original adventure. And it says, okay, so here's the ad again. But it looks like this is all just for AD&D because they don't even mention basic. And they don't show prices either. All righty. So that is Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, part of the original Adventures Reincarnated for Dungeons and Dragons from Goodman Games. Nice. I will have a review of this in the future. I'm going to try my best. I think I can pull it off to review all 6 volumes AR in January for our old school for the New Year celebration. Yes. Sweet. Very cool. I always get a kick out of looking through these. So especially this one, because I owned this module. I remember this module. I can't remember if we ran it. I'm sure there are many of you out there like me who, especially growing up, we would pick up RPG stuff all over the place and read it and not run it. I've joked before about rolling up characters for games, multiple games that never saw the light of day. Ever. So Russell says that's because AD&D players turn their nose up at basic and expert. That's right. We did. Basic. Expert. We play advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Thing is, we didn't play D&D for long. In fact, I would say 81-ish is when my group of friends, and we also had our game group at school, the Gamers Guild. And by sophomore year, we weren't playing any D&D. We were playing all different stuff. Call of Cthulhu and Top Secret and Behind Enemy Lines was another one. Stormbringer, Star Trek. So Russell says, must be more dramatic. Yes. I'll try to channel my best Shatner. As I mentioned, there are 3 more volumes in the OAR series that are currently out. Stay tuned, because throughout the rest of this week, you will see unboxing videos, even though they're not in a box, page through videos for The Lost City, Castle Amber, and I want to say, aren't these 2 both basic D&D? Or no, I think this is expert. But these weren't AD&D. So I have taken a peek once again at PDFs of these adventures over the past few years, but never had any experience really with them as a teenager. And then the big one, Volume 6, Temple of Elemental Evil, which is 2 volumes. And I am taking a stab in the dark that 1 volume is going to be the original adventures, and the other volume is going to be the 5th edition conversion. Although they both seem to be about the same size. So that would be a little odd, wouldn't it? Because so far we've seen the 5th edition stuff longer, higher page counts. Russell says Castle Amber was expert. All right, cool. So yes, it is kind of interesting how they have mixed the adventure modules there's been so far more focus on basic and expert than there have been in AD&D, because AD&D would be Expedition to the Barrier Peaks and the Temple of Elemental Evil. And the other four are either basic or expert. But here's the weird thing too, is as far as I understand, when they are talking about like people's favorite D&D adventures, I notice a lot of times some of the top adventures, more of the top adventures, like top 20, are basic and expert as opposed to advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Because let's be honest, there was some crap that came out for D&D. I probably did not run across them because I was already out. In fact, when we take a look at the other core books during my old school flashbacks, the last D&D book I picked up was Fiend Folio. That was it. So Russell Higgins says, "No way, take that back, Jeff." Omenal says they hope Goodman is going to do Desert of Desolation. I don't know. Russell says it's AD&D or no D&D. As I like to joke around with the players, and I kid around. It's like really bad role-playing game adventures are kind of written like, okay, so you're going to swallow this hook or we're not playing tonight. Sort of like. Anyway, like I said, on Saturday, I will be sharing my old school flashback with a look at the AD&D Player's Handbook. And next week, we will look at Adventurer Conqueror King. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, because I have a bunch of Axe stuff for us to peek at. All right. That's it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It will not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Also let you know when I upload other videos, such as Saturday's Old School Flashback. Yeah. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. So Russell says, if you realize the older sets, Basic and Expert, are written for 5th edition by Goodman Games, they figure the Basic and Expert mods are cheaper. I'm not sure what Russell means by that. Because it's not necessarily, once again, I'm not, I don't have inside dope about this, but I don't believe that Goodman Games is licensing these adventures to do the conversions for. I think it's an agreement between Wizards of the Coast and Goodman Games, so might be a little bit different. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure. Oh, I'm sure. Obviously, Wizards of the Coast is making money. It's like they didn't say, "Oh yes, the kindness of our hearts, go ahead." No. Once again, that's why I've said there's no PDFs going to be available of these, because Wizards of the Coast said no. I'm sure Goodman Games was more than happy to put out PDFs if they could. All right. Anyway, those of you who watched live, thank you very much. Those of you who hung out in chat with me, a bigger thank you, because, I always really dig when people help keep me company, so I'm not just blabbing into a camera like I do with other videos, right? Videos I upload, which is all right. And of course, those of you who don't have an opportunity to watch live, To me, it doesn't matter how you watch. You be watching on Memorex. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your busy lives to check out some of the videos on the channel and to hang out and watch the stream. Everybody enjoy the rest of the week as well as your weekend. Stay warm out there. It's going to be pretty chilly here in the Chicago area. It's pretty chilly today. Tomorrow's going to be even colder. I'm not complaining. We're already into January and kind of avoided all of this for the past couple of months. So I'm happy about that. Anyway, I will be back on Monday. And of course, here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. See you Monday. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.